And now you can hear me and Katie. Okay, hold on. A whisper of Ron Ogden? Is that the problem? You can only hear a whisper of me? Do I need to get real loud now? Yeah, that I think is true. Okay, now they should be able to hear you.
Hello?
Yep, there she is.
Were you trying to silence me, Ron?
No, of course not. I would never silence you. If I'm going to silence anyone, it's going to be myself.
I know, because you're so nice.
Okay, I think we can hear everybody now. Is that right?
I can hear you.
I can hear you. I've been able to hear you. Great.
I have a loud, echoey room sound.
Oh, no. Ron's levels are low. Okay, let Ron turn them up. Are Ron's levels better now? Katie's a little echoey. I don't know why she's echoey.
That's weird.
That is weird.
I don't.
Let me check here.
Oh, I hear it on the stream.
Weird. This is what happens when you have Ron run tech and he hasn't done so in a month or so. That's what this is, guys. I
shouldn't be on two mics. I only have one mic and I checked my input. Everyone, thanks for being part of our tech. This is a little behind the scenes of Monday Morning Tech. I don't really know what I can change on my end.
I don't think there's anything you can change on your end. Okay, this fixed it. Speak now, Katie.
Okay. Hello?
Or forever hold your peace.
I'm speaking now. I promise I'm on the right mic. I hear someone saying that. Okay. And that is
sounds good.
Something. Okay. Hello? Hello?
Two thumbs up. Okay, looks like we're good. Yeah, I guess I was also capturing the sound from my video capture device.
It's weird. I mean, I do sound a little in a room still.
Really? You don't sound that way to me.
I know, but listen to the stream audio. Just turn it up.
Because did everybody else hear what I'm?
Oh yeah. It sound like I'm in a concrete room. It's very weird.
That is weird. I must be doing this. This must be me.
Anyway, did everybody enjoy my mime work? Any other moves you want to see? Because I'm happy to. Yeah, it sounds like reverb. It does sound like reverb. Don't put Katie in a box. Climb a rope? Yeah, I did that.
What if it does this? No, that's
hello.
I don't know what's going on.
Mime camp. I wish I went to mime camp. I did not.
Ooh, mime camp.
Mime camp sounds like a German novel.
Yeah, I don't know why you're getting. I don't understand.
Very strange.
It is.
This is like the joy of Twitch tech. There's always something. It's like everything will be working, and then there's always one thing that's like, how is that setting turned on that was never turned on ever before? We have fun. How's everyone's morning going?
See your sounds coming in. I guess we're just going to have to deal with it. Is it too bad? Is it disruptive, everyone? Do I need to really spend time fixing this, or should we get right to it?
I think I just sound a little... I'm testing it. I sound like I'm in a room, but I don't think it's not unbearable. It just sounds like I'm like echoing a little bit.
I don't know.
Not echoing. Echoing's not the right word. Yeah.
All right. Everybody says it's fine. We're just going to move on. I apologize to everyone out there if this is my fault. It probably is. So I apologize. Thank you for the hype train. We appreciate you. Woo, woo, hype train. Okay. We're going to get right into everything. Hello, everyone. My name is Ronald Ogden. Welcome to the Dungeon Cooldown, where today we're going to be talking about the first of a two-shot called A Town Called Ricochet. So, today I've got here with me Katie Michaels, and I'm Ron Ogden. As you know, I'm the DM for this particular two-shot. And Katie is playing the, what's the word for it? What's the adjective I want to use for you, Katie, for Sal? I want to say... hilarious. I mean, but that's always you.
I mean, she's kind of like a wannabe rebel.
A wannabe rebel.
I described her as a gith on Rumspringa. Like
yes, a gith on Rumspringa, which I love. That's such a great concept. If you're not familiar with the concept of Runspringa, all those out there, it is a European-based thing where you send your children away after post-high, or what we call high school, but post-secondary education, and they learn about the world. It's made most prominent by the Amish here in the U.S. There are a couple of other cultures, especially European-based cultures, that use the concept of Runspringa. So, works really well, especially with the Githzerai. So, welcome everyone. If you're not a Patreon, this show is brought to you because of our patrons. So thank you so much if you do subscribe to Dungeon Run, or patreon.com/the Dungeon Run. If you are not yet a patron, I highly recommend you take a look at the page and look at all of the wonderful things that you get if you sign up, even for just the lowest tier, including our new show, Arcane Artistry, which will be released to the public today after the cooldown. Woo! Our latest guest on Arcane Artistry was Sean Merwin of Ghostfire Game fame. You might also know Sean from since third edition D&D. He's been working with D&D and making a lot of stuff. Go check out some of the stuff they're working on now, including a lot of the new monster art coming out of Ghostfire Gaming and Grim Hollow. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. For that, thank you everyone for being here, and let's get into our questions. Katie, how was your weekend?
It was really nice. I helped my husband, Jake, filmed a little horror short with his company. So I helped do that, a little bit of that. What else? It was kind of a chill weekend. We went to a birthday party, went and saw the new Wes Anderson movie.
Oh, how was that?
It was I just think they're visual masterpieces. Of course. And I want to see it again because I feel like it's impossible to catch everything on the first go of those movies because there's just so much happening. I loved it.
Yeah. I love Ninja Pedro as in there. First question, WTF, Ron?
Yeah. Ron,
that's the first question.
Ron, would you like to respond?
Things.
Ron's doing a lot. It's hard. If anyone, it should be WTF Katie, who never does tech because I have a Mac and I can't. And yeah.
I think there might have been also WTF of what I did to you in the one shot or in the two shot. So
also that. Also that.
Well, I did, I just want to say up front, it's a spaghetti Western, right? I'm using spaghetti Westerns as my framework here, and I don't know if you've watched any spaghetti Westerns, but there's a lot of WTF just happened, mate, in those. So the fact that you're asking that means I'm on target. So let's get right on to the first one from Prowin from the Realm. Emphasis on spaghetti. Yes, emphasis. The DM's on Murder Hobos this time, says JT Justice. That ending had my jaw on the ground, says Prowin from the Realm. Ron, will devices and events in your two-shot be making appearances in the present day of Ayin? I love this story and area you've created. Even cooler seeing it on the desk map. And then there's a second part for you, Katie. To answer you, Prowin, I don't know. As we have kind of led up to this two-shot, this occurs thousands of years before the events of the Dungeon Run. So clearly things have changed since then. There are some caveats. As you can see, there will be some through lines there, but I got to give it to Jeff. I got to call out Jeff, really giving me the freedom to do what I want here in the Savagery. It's very, very, very nice, and I love you for that, Jeffrey. Thank you. But I cannot guarantee that any of this will carry over into the Dungeon Run or Ayin. And JT Justice, I knew that question was going to come up, so I'll answer it right away, which is Jeff and I had a small discussion about these kind of things. I picked his brain a little bit, sent him some things that I was thinking about. In fact, I had a whole framework for this two-shot that I completely scrapped because there was something else that came about when I got all the character information in and started having conversations with our players. So, fistful of dollars, exactly, to a mass, fistful of dollars. The Savagery is a place that Jeff created, so I have no claim on any of that. I am obviously part of the Dungeon Run, and so have had conversations about these kinds of things with Jeff. But
you're on the Dungeon Run?
I know, right? Who knew? I'm on the Dungeon Run. But I like the name of the Savagery that allowed me just the freedom to be savage a bit. And I thought, especially in a spaghetti Western, I thought that would be a very
It feels
interesting...
so right for that world.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So that just felt right to me. Originally, this was going to be a monster two-shot where all the characters played monsters. As
David Genpro one said, it would have been a fistful of meat chucks. Which is a disgusting
a fistful
phrase.
Of meat chucks. Yes, it is. Meat shower, I believe, is the phrase I used. A meat shower, which is visceral enough.
I quit.
But, for kids, like, what is that? I don't know. What does he mean by meat shower? Well,
I know I don't like showers. So...
Yeah, I don't like showers, so definitely don't want to shower in meat.
Is it chicken nuggets? Because then maybe I'll like it.
Now we're getting into what's that show? That movie? Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Oh yeah. Cloudy with a Chance of Nuggets.
D&D version of that. Cloudy with a Chance of chicken nuggies. A fistful of moist pustules just for Katie. All right. So, Katie, your side of this question is, how does it feel as a player being in such a dire situation? I was lost for words when it went down and needed a double horse beer for the occasion.
Yeah, right? I mean, character hated it, obviously, like, don't want to die. But player-wise, I think it's very fun. I think it's fun. And I think that's the fun of a two-shot, right? Is like, you can play a little harder and faster in a way that maybe you wouldn't play in a long campaign where you want to be careful. And death feels like it's death in both cases, but death in a two-shot feels a little less final than death in our, like, if Lily dies, that's devastating to me, because that's the campaign. That's a whole different thing versus if Sal dies, I don't know. It's kind of cool. Like to me, it's exciting to have that kind of flexibility, to feel like it's fun to have those high of stakes.
Yeah. And, I agree with you. That was kind of what some of the purpose here was like, we get to play a little bit with the stuff that we don't normally get to play with, mostly because these characters are new. They're not necessarily established or beloved yet, despite giving you some feeling and introducing a concept that hopefully did draw you a little bit into feeling for these characters, and establish a baseline of some sort of past with them, and that they aren't just new characters that people created and threw in together into a room.
Yeah. Well, Ron, this kind of goes into David Genpro's question in here for you, which is fun to see Ron DM and the Western world of the Savagery and Ein. The TPK was a real surprise, as was the "you've all leveled up" when the party was all red mist. My question is, how many XP is getting ambushed worth?
How many XP is getting ambush worth? Enough to level you. That is the answer. Yeah. There were a lot of things that they went through that I gave them credit for. I mean, they were caught unawares.
So bad.
Yeah. They were caught unawares, but not because they didn't suspect something was going down. They were caught unawares because they literally just could not see the people that were following them. So we'll get into, I want to be very careful about talking about too much about the actual things that happened in the game, because there's more to come to kind of explain where those things are coming from. So to answer your question, you Oakhart, yes, there will be a second part, and it happens this Wednesday at 6 p.m. right here on the Dungeon Run. So make sure you guys don't miss that. See it live. Come see what happens. There's so many things in store for you.
I'm so scared and excited.
I am also scared and excited. That is...
You're doing such a good job. It's so fun to finally play a game where you're DMing, Ron.
Thank you. I mean, this is not my first rodeo. Yay.
I know, but it's the first time that I've played with you in this capacity. Yes. So
and I'm throwing. I've been a little bit more heavy-handed with all of you because I know I can trust you, and you all can trust me. Yeah. So there's a lot of that, and that goes right into our next question, which is from the Wills. I watched the Dungeon Run not only for the first-class entertainment. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. But also to learn how to be a better player and DM. What lessons should I take or not take from the TPK at the end of the last session in my own campaign? So here's the thing. Don't purposefully kill your characters. Don't do it. You're only going to make people very upset at you. The only reason I could tell this story is because the people across from me trust me. And so that's the big thing. For me, it's as
and even with trust, you saw us all being like, wait, what did you just do?
Yeah. Yep. So the big thing there is trust. This has to be a two-way street. you have to be trustworthy and you have to trust your players, especially if you're going to DM. I don't recommend using a TPK right out of the gate. If it's your first time DMing, this is something I would say is probably reserved for someone who's done this a couple of times, because especially when you're killing characters and bringing them back to life, there's a lot of questionable things that you have to cover and make sure that you baseline with your players. And as all of my players can attest, I did do a lines and veils discussion before we even got into this. I wanted to talk to each of our characters and players and understand exactly where they didn't feel comfortable. And since none of the things that they mentioned lined up with what I was doing, a TPK felt okay in this case. Now, again, as I said, I was planning, the bad guy was planning on killing them. The bad guy was planning on secretly killing them without them knowing. I did not expect them, which I should have, and this is probably where a DM should expect, I did not expect them to have no information at all. So, on that note, I will say there was a mistake I made on the part one of A Town Called Ricochet. At the end, I rolled surprise. The way we did surprise was actually incorrect, and Ambrose should have gone before the second character that attacked him. So there is a world in which Ambrose might have lived through that combat. So knowing that, I will take it and change some things for the next part, and that will be reflected in the game, as you will see. So
also on a TPK note, like you TPK'd us, but it wasn't like, and then the campaign's over. Like you TPK'd us with clearly a plan, unless we're just leveling up and you're like, and now you're new characters. Episode.
Thanks for leveling up, everybody. Show's over.
Thanks for doing that work.
Death in this case, the TPK was used as a plot point, as a way to move the story forward, and so that's another thing I would say about. Thank you, Katie, for mentioning that. It's another thing I would say about any kind of controversial decision when you're playing DM. Make sure that your choices are advancing the plot and are going to be something that the characters can use in the future.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this kind of goes into the next question from Rabbit Attack Goat. Is I love how during the game, Ron talked about coming up with plans for any number of survivors, and then the players still manage to do something unexpected. Has this ever happened to you in other games, either as a DM or a player? And what was your favorite instance of a player surprise?
Well, what about you, Katie? How about you?
I mean, I feel like I'm always surprised. I don't know. Like, I think,
You're a very lucky player.
I think, I think Jeff has done it many times. I think going back in time is a surprise. I think the Chrono Dragon, spoilers, was a surprise.
The offering me the saving grace of Thorn, but taking all of my levels from me. Yeah, huge surprise.
Yeah. I mean, even just like the beginning, the OG one, which was like, your town's on fire. But like, I wasn't expecting that.
Who else? Elliot asks, Katie, when are you going to DM your own show?
I've never DM'd before, but
I'll be in that game.
Okay,
I'll be in it.
Yeah,
I want to be a part of it.
Okay. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll prepare it over the holidays and do it in the new year.
Some of my best stories of the player surprise is, as a DM, sometimes you set up things, begging for your players to make the bold choice, and then they just never do because, again, they're worried about the consequences. So when you set those up and the players dive head first into the bold choice, those are the player surprises that I've run into the most, and those are the ones I love the most. Yeah, because that's a player saying yes, and what else? So it can be hard. It can definitely be difficult when a player does that. But again, this comes down to, as I've said before, you have to kind of prepare enough to be ready for anything.
Yeah,
I mean, I think I've talked about that a little bit.
Well, I think if any of you were ever privy to our post-show convo, I feel like we do this to Jeff all the time. He's like, that was not what I was expecting.
Yep.
So,
and again, sometimes it happens because of deliberate choices they make. Sometimes it happens because the rolls just don't go their way. There's a variety of reasons why that player surprise happens, but the ones that I've run into the most and love are the ones where it's like, for example, in my superhero campaign that I play with my friends, including Heather, someone was presented essentially a god level page, a page that was very hard to read. They already had met with it before. They had stopped trying to read it because their brains kind of scrambled when they tried to read it. And so a very large demon shows up at some point. I'm skipping over the details, but asks for it. And the player who had it is just like, okay, here you go. Did not expect that at all. Never expected them to just be like, here, have the thing you need.
I can't even read it, so.
Yeah, that's literally like, I can't read it and it hurts me when I try. So here you go. That they are still dealing with the consequences of that decision, and it's been almost 2 years later.
That's so funny.
So yeah, that's the kind of biggest player surprise for me. And Heather's shaking her head right now. She's in the room with me, and I see her shaking her head because she knows exactly what I'm talking about. And if the players that are watching, who are in mine, are probably smiling and shaking their heads too, knowing exactly what I'm talking about. But that's my instance of player surprise. But again, that happens all the time. There isn't one DM game that I haven't been where I was like, ooh, I did not expect that. I like that choice, especially in this first part of the two shot. The whole campfire story that I put in front of you guys was amazing. Like, the way you handled that was incredible, and it gave me so many things to do and so many gifts to use later. So thank you all for that.
I mean, that's my favorite part of D&D is the improv, the character development. And the battle's fun, but I think the battle's fun if you're being creative about it, right? Like, right. That is part of the reason why I, pick Lily's spells, is I pick ones that I feel like I can have like fun with them, or they're not.
Yeah, and we do that on the dungeon run, right? Where like the combat is just another reason to move us forward into something else, and like, oh, I was impacted by what happened in that combat. Now we have drama and emotion and things we got to talk about. Yeah, so absolutely, I love it when that happens too. All right, so. We did that one. Oh, question for Katie. From, another one from the Wills. And ladies and gentlemen, and gentle days, if you are wondering where we're getting these questions, they come from our Patreon. We post usually on a couple days before this cooldown, a little post there about saying hello and any questions you'd like to ask. So if you would like to have your questions answered, then please
your answers questioned, put them in the Patreon.
Questioned, then please join our Patreon.
Yeah,
where we can patronize you.
I love it if they have to submit answers and we come up with the question.
Their own questions, and we have to come up with a question.
Yeah.
All right, so the question for you, Katie, was your character Gus in the Mending of Magic based on oh wow, this is a throwback. Was this character Gus in the Mending of Magic based at all on Rosa Diaz?
Oh, from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. No, but that I can see where you would see the resemblance. Yeah. Absolutely. No, Gus was quite literally based on, I want to play the opposite of Lily. That was my initial thing. And I was like, they always see Lily. So what's the opposite attitude I can take to a character?
I also took that route.
Yeah.
with Ego.
Yeah.
I definitely took that route as well. Yeah. Because we, especially at that time, it was like, well, what's our range? What can we do?
Yeah. It was just a fun way to be like, this isn't the only character. Being
typecast.
Yeah. No, I can be mean. She's not even mean. She's just like apathetic kind of.
Yeah. And I can be smart.
Yeah.
All right. Question from Whisper Joe. Question for Ron. Do you have any tips for a first time DN on how to keep things moving in a short term 1 or 2 shot campaign?
I'm taking notes.
Yeah. I still struggle with this myself. Having short campaigns, one shots we always did when I was growing up. Those things I did with my friends, but they were kind of like throwaway and alternate stories that had some connection to our other games that we were playing. And typically, you weren't playing any characters that were related or anywhere related to the ones that you were playing in the main story, and it was more of a reveal of what happened for that particular game in some fashion, an event, a person, something important was revealed to you. So it helps when you're doing that, right? A one shot really help and easier to do that when you already have a major campaign that has all of its bullet points and you know everything that's happening and you're already working on stuff. It's much easier, I think, to create a one shot that is a shunt off of a campaign that already exists. What I'm finding is difficult is when you're trying to get enough of a story in 4 hours with D&D. It's really difficult. 8 hours seems to be about what you really need to get a full flushed out story, I think, in terms of how D&D is played. And if you think of any kind of novels, because that's really what you're writing is a playable novel in a lot of ways. If you think about novels, they take a lot of pages to get to the places that they're going. So it's going to take a little bit of time when you're playing D&D. One of the best things I think, and really helped in this last one shot or this two shot, the first part of the two shot, was the campfire scene. I really think the campfire scene helped us understand where the characters wanted to go, what they understood about what was sent to them and what was given to them. And it gave the DM a little bit of areas to go, okay, what do I pepper in there to help them feel uneasy because things are going on, but at the same time feel like they're in the moment.
Right.
So I highly recommend that. Give your players some improv time.
Well, it's also that for you, but it's also for your players, because especially for this, like, Michael and Erica, I know Erica, but I don't know Michael very well, and only online. So like we haven't played together much. So it's very different, you know.
Yeah.
You need that couple seconds to be like, let your characters connect. I think it's so crucial, because if you jump in otherwise without that, it's really hard as a player, I think you get more into like there's an alpha person then, and there's people who sit back, and like there becomes less of a group dynamic if you forget to do that.
And that part of what it was, the purpose of the campfire scene was to give everyone an opportunity to express their own desires as their characters. And
I think it was so smart. It was so smart to do that. Ron, you're so smart.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm always skeptical of that.
No, you're not.
I know I'm a smart person. That just means the more I know that I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just more aware of what I'm not aware of. I think Morgan and I have had this conversation before, where it's like, thank you very much for calling me smart. I appreciate that. That does give me worth and makes me feel good. But I always feel strange about relying on that and being like, well, I'm smart, because it can turn into an ego thing for people very quickly.
Sure. There's also many different types of smart.
Of course there are. And, I am very few of those. So one thing that you, Oakhart, did say was I ran a one-shot for my group that was Campus Kidnap Santa. I have also run a one-shot similar to that, although it turned out that Krampus didn't kidnap Santa, and there was a twist there. Actually played by some of the fans of the Dungeon Run, in fact. You should ask about that in the Discord. They will tell you plenty about it, I'm sure, including Wilbro Jr. and I Am the Raven Queen. They were there. All right, so back to what we're doing here. Whisper Joe, short term, how to keep things moving. I think finding reasons to keep your characters on track is helpful. Throwing in some gotchas or what's the better word for it? Not gotchas. Twists, or more of like, here's a path that doesn't lead anywhere, or it's a path that doesn't lead where you think it leads. Those kind of things, pitfalls, those kinds of things help keep the story moving forward. And if all else fails, Whisper Joe, combat helps. Mitch says, you are heart smart, head smart, and emotionally smart, Ron. Thank you, Mitch.
Aww.
I do try at those things. So I appreciate that. Very kind words. Now, Whisper Joe has a question for you, Katie.
Okay.
How different for you is it to play short-term campaigns over long-term ones? And which do you like better? Or do you like both for different reasons?
Both for different reasons. And I mean, I kind of already said it a little bit with the death capacity of like with the short campaign, I play harder and faster. And with the long campaign, there's more of like this will have a consequence that I'll have to deal with for hundreds of episodes potentially.
Yeah.
So I think not that in a short campaign I ever want to play like a real roadie type character. That's not what I mean by harder and faster, but I think the stakes of like death and stuff like that you can play a little like closer to the sun in those campaigns because it's going to end, you know? So, and again, it's back to storytelling, right? Like you're telling a big story in 8 hours, or you're telling a big story in 450 hours. So like, you don't want to like, in a long campaign, you don't want to play at a 10 all the time because it's exhausting to watch and it's exhausting to play. Whereas in a short campaign, you can play closer to a 10, I feel like, during that time because you're trying to accomplish a lot. That's how I kind of picture it. I think short campaigns are super fun because I think they're a really great opportunity for people who maybe are more nervous or apprehensive about role play to just go all out. Like, you can do things that will have crazy consequences, and it's two shot. It's two times or one time, just have fun with the boundaries of your improv. And I think that's really fun for me too.
I relate it to the difference between short-term game form improv and long-term improv.
Yeah.
I can do a lot bigger, sillier things in short form that are acceptable to the audience, whereas a long form, you're going to really have to sell why you're that big or why you're that crazy, and it has to have a purpose to it. Whereas short form is just like, whoa, that's a lot of energy. I like it. Let's do that.
Well, it's a lot and then it's done versus it's a lot and you have to sustain that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a marathon versus a sprint, it's the same thing. It's you sustaining a super high energy, wild character is like fun for a little bit, but it's exhausting for everyone after time.
Yes.
You Okart, I'm also excited to see what's going to happen from my secret room. Lily's in trouble.
Mitch says it's the Icarus effect, Katie, meaning one shots can go closer to the sun while the longer games have to be more curious.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Katie, do you know the name of Icarus's father? Does anybody in chat know the name of Icarus's father? Everybody knows Icarus. Nobody knows his dad.
Okay, smarty pants.
Brianna got it. Daedalus. Daedalus is his name. Yep. I always felt bad for Daedalus. Icarus is one thing, but I felt very bad for his father because his father gave him the advice and he didn't listen and lost his son because of it. I always thought the tragedy was Daedalus. Jim Whitted has a question. Congrats, Ron, on an amazing first half of your two-shot. Thank you. I have been anxiety-driven all weekend because, the brain does that kind of stuff. I would love to know about your writing process. Was this an idea you've had for a long time, or did you create it especially for this current break in the main story? So, Jim Whitted, I had an idea for a two-shot that was Western-based, that was a monster Western. But something occurred in the process of going through that I decided there was good stuff in that, but it wasn't coming together the way I wanted it to. So I kind of just had an epiphany. Well, one thing that I've really learned to do, and that Jeff and I have talked about before, is I rely on my subconscious a lot to help me write things. Because I've learned through improv, I can trust my subconscious most of the time, especially when trying to connect story elements and getting it right. And so a lot of the times, and Heather can account to this too, I will say an idea and then sit on it for weeks. And then hey, Heather, remember that idea I had? What about this? And most of the time she's like, oh, the first idea was good, but this new one, wow. So that's how I do it. For me, I let it sit in the back of my head. I let it simmer and stew. I think about different options and abilities, and I start to build that mind castle of what the world looks like. Sometimes I choose a specific moment or thing that I know I want to occur, and then decide where in the story that lies and build out from there. I find specific moments and items of inspiration help me kind of focus. I take a seed and then build the candy coating around it. So that's how my brain functions, especially when it comes to two shots or to smaller, quicker things. You got to get in, get fast, get in.
Get in, get fast.
Got to get in, get fast. Got to get them horse beans. You get in fast. Learn what you need, and then throw everything else away. And that's one big thing I can tell you is, as a writer, the best advice I've ever been given is the idea of killing one's darlings. And that's saying, if you have something that you just love and then, ooh, this would be really cool, be careful of that. Always be careful of it. That isn't
well, it's also away, if you have characters that you really love, don't be afraid to kill them,
exactly.
Which you did.
Which I did. Yes, I did.
So you killed five. You killed five darlings.
Johnny. Poor little Johnny, who is really just the metaphor for Ron's anxiety for the whole thing. Poor Johnny gets exploded. Meat shower. We'll see. We'll see. There's another part of this on Wednesday. We'll see how it all comes out in the wash. But that is the end of our Patreon questions.
Yeah, so we have time for chat questions. So hit us up.
So hit us up here.
All your hard-hitting questions on the two-shot, on the dungeon run, on our personal life.
Gary McHenry says, I have a vision of a crater. Where does that fit in my story? Well, what caused the crater? Doesn't always have to be an explosion. Mm-hmm. It could have been something else that caused it. So start thinking in that way, and I guarantee you'll find something interesting.
I'm looking now, Dark Horse.
Oh, Dark Horse just added one.
Okay.
See? It's so interactive. You can be a Patreon and add them as we're on the show, and we'll answer them.
Okay, then we get this question a lot, so we can address it. I have a question. Any future thoughts of reopening the studio as we continue to move forward with the pandemic becoming more manageable? Like, is the crew still available for when, if public attendance are able to be reviewed? Basically, are we going back to the studio? Long story short, that's no longer our studio because that was Caffeine's. So we don't have that studio anymore. long story short, but we would eventually love to go back in person. We don't have any timeline for that. Things have still been kind of up and down in LA as far as getting back together and making it safe, but also just the element of being in a studio is a big production jump up for us. So it's a lot of logistics because we don't have that space available anymore. So fingers crossed, we would love to. That is our ultimate goal. We're not there yet.
One step at a time.
Baby.
And thanks to all of you for helping us make each one of those steps with your decisions to watch us as often and as long as you do, as well as your decisions to support us financially. We appreciate all of you. And without any of you, this would not be possible. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very, very
much.
We
love our patrons. We love you all.
Solution has a question about when are we getting Jeff as a character in one of the one-shots?
Great question.
Yeah, real great question.
Jeff does so much work for the main campaign that when we do one-shots and two-shots, it is kind of us to let Jeff have that time off because it truly is a huge job, as you can imagine, especially anyone out. I haven't even DM'd, but I can only imagine. But those of you who have DM'd, doing this story every week is a lot of work. So part of some of the two shots is also to give him a respite. And
trust me, coming up with the two shot and all the work that I've done just for that is maybe a drop of the bucket that Jeff does. And I was almost overwhelmed myself. So I can understand that Jeff needs a break here and there. And I appreciate him working so hard for us.
That is not to say that is a no. So JT Justice, I see you. Not necessarily a no, just don't know when.
Just don't know.
Because often when we depart from the main story, we also like to give Jeff a break. So, but I'm sure someday. Well,
and we'll keep nudging him. Hey, buddy. Hey, there's a two shot coming. You should play him. Yeah, but I'm having my time off. Fair enough. So any future plans for a Dungeon Run con? That would be amazing. I agree. That would be amazing. We haven't really discussed much of it. Again, a lot of this comes back to the pandemic, right?
Cons will start to come back, I'm guessing, in 2022, knock on wood, depending on how things go. I think we would very much love to do those. We had just started talking about doing them right when the shutdown happened.
In fact, we had plans to do one.
We did, yeah. So I definitely think that is on our radar, is something we would love to do once they're kind of happening and safe again. But that's still, I don't think have there been any that are in person?
If there have been, they're not in California. And
yeah. So you'll be the first to know when we decide we're going to any of those, and we would love to go to those. And I'm hoping in 2022 we can. Fingers crossed.
Indeed, I'm hoping we can. I come, as many of you may know, I'm from Atlanta. I spent a lot of my years there in Atlanta, and the Dragon Con is one of my favorite cons of all time. I know they went in person recently.
That's what Uokur said. Apparently, Comic-Con's still scheduled in San Diego over Thanksgiving. Interesting. Okay. Well, we're not going this year. Yeah. That's for sure. But next year, would love to try and go to some cons.
As Treacherous Idol put it, some things have opened up, but safe they are not. What we're dealing with now, ladies and gentlemen, is risk management and how much risk we're willing to take for each individual as we look at these things. So that's always, I highly recommend that you do that in your own life. Make sure you pay attention to the risk that you're taking, especially when you're going out during a pandemic.
Icarus's dad.
Just saying. Whisper Josephine says, you guys better do Motor City Comic Con.
Oh.
Okay. All right. The Motor City, for sure.
Motor City.
Motor City, is that Detroit? I'm going to get yelled at for guessing. Is that Detroit? Or is it?
That feels right. Or
does that feel right?
Pittsburgh?
That seems like,
Pittsburgh?
yeah, that seems like to me, right?
Pittsburgh?
Detroit. Yep, I was right. Okay, that is the Motor City. Thought so. All right.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of cool cons. I would love to go. I've never really been to any of the.
Have you been to any cons?
I went to Gen Con.
Ooh, how was that?
But I didn't go in. I was just outside.
I got you. I went there, sort of.
I went to it, sort of. Yeah, I really haven't been to any cons. No.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Dragon Con many times. I've only ever been to Comic Con, but I did the same as you, as I was there for a different reason. I was in San Diego for a different reason. Just so happened to be there at the time that Comic Con was going on.
Yeah, I saw like a lot of the cosplay and stuff outside, but I didn't go into the actual con.
I did learn that San Diego is a beautiful city that all of you should visit sometime.
It is beautiful. Yeah,
very much so.
I'm new to the con world, so I'd love to check it out sometime. Any other hard-hitting questions or soft-hitting questions?
Yeah, we can do
or just like medium questions? Yeah, softball questions.
Chafrika says, I live in San Diego. Come visit me.
Yeah.
Not too far.
Not too far at all.
Not too far at all.
I love San Diego so much.
I do too.
San
Fran. I like San Fran too. It's a different city, but I like San Fran as well.
Yeah, totally different vibes.
Yeah, very much so.
Very, very,
colder
very
in
different
San
vibes.
Fran than it is San Diego.
Yeah. San Fran, it's always deceptive because it's like sunny, but then it's the bay breeze is so chilly.
Yeah.
Gets me every time. Who else, Elliot? What are you looking forward to when you go back to the main campaign? Ron?
Well, Ugo's new title gives me a lot to work with. So we'll see. There's so much. There's just so much with that cat. You know what I mean? There's so it's hard for me to talk about because I love this campaign so much. I'm not even gonna say probably. It is my favorite D&D campaign of all time that I've ever played in. I feel so lucky every time we get to play it because of Jeff's work and how hard he works on this thing and how cohesive he makes this story. So for me, it's emotional every time I think about it. I think for me, I'm looking forward to what the rest of Act 2 means.
Yeah.
Because we just hit a major plot point in that area. And I would love to see, I'm very, very, very interested to see how all this starts coming together. I can see it maybe in the back of my head a little bit. I'm making a lot of assumptions about things. And I try not to let that actually influence what I do as Ugo. But of course, Ron cannot help but be like, well, I wonder if it's this, or I wonder if it's that, or what if it's this? So I am excited about a lot of it all the time because it's always a little bit more of the curtain is peeled back.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. I feel like Lily's kind of at this like turning point of a character where she's been like support. And now all of like getting into higher stake situations of figuring out like, okay, there's not always an ideal outcome for everything. How do I handle these situations and maintaining my personality, but also the knowledge that I now have of the world? Like, I feel like that's really coming to a boiling point.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yep.
For her. So
indeed.
I'm excited. I don't know how she's going to deal with that. I don't know how that's going to affect her relationships. I don't know how that's going to affect her and Civ. You know, like, I think she's kind of like, yeah, it's like after college, you know, like, all right, I have this knowledge, or going to college. I don't know which one it is.
That's Wild Man has a question. Outside of the dungeon run, what projects are you working on and excited about?
Mm.
Rude Solution also asked that. Any other projects coming up for you guys outside of D&D?
Well, we're both actors, so there's that. Always auditioning. But then aside from that, I've been doing set design for Good Time Society, and that's been super fun, which is my husband's company and Becca Scott, and they make
incredible stuff.
Board game tutorials, and Ron just did something for them too.
I did. I recently, as many of you know, I paint outside of Rude Solution. That's not outside of D&D. A lot of what I'm doing is actually inside of D&D. Now that we have a D&D industry that is not just wizards, I've taken full advantage of that. It is my personal passion, and I wish I had known prior to playing the dungeon run that was even possible. So now that it is, I've been painting a lot. I print my own minis with licenses from incredible artists. I am even working on my own company to start releasing my own minis. So that I'm also working on, and keep a lookout for that going forward. Thank you. Joral's Love Child says, I can attest that Ron's minis are phenomenal. I appreciate that. The mini shop's been a little slow lately, but I've been focusing on other things like this 2-shot. So
been a little busy.
Just a little bit.
Dark House online has a question. How did you all enjoy getting to play different personalities and play styles, such as the Halloween special and the 2-shot?
I personally, as a character actor, I love it. It gives me an opportunity to play a little bit of with physical tics. I don't know if anyone noticed. I think Gamershare did actually at some point. She mentioned it. But I was definitely doing a lot of owl movements during the 2-shot. A lot of turning the heads, big eyes, and just watching everything how it goes down. I learned a lot about that, like find physical tics, especially in improv. If you find a physical tic and use that as your focus point, you can find a lot in a character that way. I found some success in that. So for me, that's what this kind of stuff is. I like to just find one thing and stick with it and then kind of build from that. But that's how I go about it.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love playing the different styles. I think it makes, I love Lily, and she's very fun, and I enjoy playing her every week, but mixing it up is also so fun. And the difference between playing like my clumsy British Emma Thompson character on the Halloween special to playing a Gith on Rumspringa on the 2-shot, like that's so fun to me. And
you're very good at it, Katie. That's the thing.
Thank you. You are too.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But we're talking about you right now.
Okay, sorry.
Can I celebrate you a little bit? We've celebrated me enough here on this show. It's your turn. Katie, what I love about your characters is no matter, even if you're being serious, there's this sense of joy and hilarity built into all the characters as you play that I think is just who you are as a person. And so it comes into all of your characters. But there is not a game I wouldn't play with you, Katie. There's not a game I would not be a partner of yours to play in, because the gifts that you give your fellow players is just innumerable. They're innumerable.
Aww.
So thank you.
I mean, thank you. Like, this is coming from the person who coined the term horse beers. So I'm honored. The compliment.
Hey, you gave it to me. I just took it a next step. That's all it is. It was yours. It was your idea.
One of these days, Ron and I are just going to do a 2-prov.
We should sometime do a 2-prov. I would love that. I used to do that kind of stuff. I love that.
Oh yeah, Jake's doing that with his friends right now. He's DMing, and they're switching off DMing and playing, which is
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else? Elliot is also a personal friend of mine, and I know he does that in some of his campaigns. Where recently they're all kind of trading. He's functioning, I think, of my understanding when talking to him about it. He's functioning as kind of like, I'm the one who's like handling most of this, but we're trading off DM positions, and I love that idea. I think that's really. I've never done that myself, and I really love that idea.
It's kind of like a D&D version of the improv, like shared storytelling.
Yep.
I'm going back up to when we started asking questions because I want to make sure we didn't.
Of course. Yep.
Anything major. JT Justice, Katie, how's your comfort knowledge level with D&D since starting the dungeon run? I would say greatly improved. I mean, I think now I've played over 400 hours of D&D, so I feel very comfortable with it. I still feel like rules to me, no matter how long I play D&D, that's just not like, I know the rules, but then that's not what I focus on. But I do feel very comfortable with D&D. Yeah, I think I know what I'm doing now.
You do.
For the most part.
You did the day we stepped in. Like when I met you at the audition, to be completely honest, I felt like you were stronger in a lot of choices in how to play D&D than many other people in the audition. And having you in that room with me gave me a lot of confidence to do the things I did. And that's why we're sitting here. So
Ron and I sat next to each other at the callback, and it was the best. It made me feel very comfortable because that's nice knowing that from you. But for me, I was like, this person, because we had talked prior to going in, knows this game inside and out. So I would like roll, and that he'd be like, just like point on my character sheet to like what I need to be looking at. And I was like,
yeah. Well, that's it. It's like, as an actor, you know, there's so much time when I'm with other actors where they're like, oh, I'm going to keep myself quiet because this is a competition and I want to win the job. I'm not that kind of person. Like there was
no way that I could have done that in that anyway.
For me, it's if you don't know a thing and you seem like you're floundering a little bit or you're confused or just don't know because you don't have the experience, that's when my teacher side comes out and goes, okay, let me help, please let me help you. I will be kind to you while I do it, I promise, but please let me help you. I try to be that way as much as best I can, because I benefit from people who were like that in my own life. So I'm just trying to give back to the world as it's given to me.
You gotta.
Yeah, absolutely. The world needs more of those types of individuals. Chafrikas asks, question about the horse kid Johnny in Ricochet. Several people thought he was a little sus. For sure. That was intended. But I read it more like you were playing him as a neurodivergent and atypical character. Was that what you were intending with him? I loved him so much. As I identified, Johnny, if you aren't aware, Ron is a neurodivergent individual. I'm neurodivergent. Sometimes neurodivergency can come off to others as suspect behavior. We've seen that in the real life. So I was not surprised when that was the way Johnny was treated. But Johnny was literally just a metaphor for my own anxiety. Just filled with it, letting myself feel that anxiety. In a way, it was a cathartic way to let me take those feelings and use them. And I think that's really important in any kind of role player. The feelings that you have as a person while you're playing a character, they're real. They may be yours. They may be the characters. Either way, use them. They are feelings that you have in the moment, and you should use them.
Yep.
Try to make them make sense, obviously. Try to build them into the character. How does this fit my character? But you can't hide those feelings, so might as well grab hold and steer them in a way that helps you. And that's kind of what I was doing with Johnny. Was a lot of, rip Johnny. You were the realist. That's very true. So, yep, indeed. Real feelings in imaginary situations like acting. Yes, David Genbro. Exactly. David, Jess had experience. Where is this? Jess had previous D&D experience, or is Fahima an act? I've been trying to figure it out since she did so well in the Halloween one-shot.
Jess is very good at D&D, and Fahima is a teenager who doesn't know. She's new. And it's just, I think Jess plays the teenager so freaking well.
Yep.
Because that's what you are when you're 17. You're invincible. You think of like you as a teenager, but put you in a D&D world. And that's what Fahima is. And that's what makes her so beautiful.
Yep. And it's a gift to all of the rest of us. It's a gift to the rest of us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep. No, she did have, but to answer your question, she did have previous experience, quite a bit, I believe. Or she played for 5 years or something like that. I don't remember.
You know, and John D says RPG gaming is a mirror image related to acting on film. And I think that is absolutely true. And I think that's what's at the heart of why D&D live plays have become so popular, especially with voice actors, like Critical Role. All of them are voice actors before and after. I think that's largely why it was so successful out of the gate, was because it relates very well to film acting. Absolutely. Especially if you treat it as such, like Jeff does.
Mm-hmm. Someone says, so that's why Ron and Katie had, or was it chemistry on the first episode? It's true. It's true.
There are two people talked to me at the end of that audition that I can remember very well. Alex Albrecht, who immediately after we left that room started telling me about all of his D&D adventures that he had with his friends, including Jeff. And I've said that before. That indicated to me like, okay, I think I got this job. The other one was Katie before we went in, and then after she came out, she said, I think our characters could be best friends. And I was like, yes, I think you're absolutely right. So that is our time. Actually, it looks like we're right about 3 minutes away from our full hour.
Yeah. So if any final questions,
say
it now or forever hold
right
your
now.
peace until next Monday when we're back with another episode of the Dungeon Cooldown.
You, Oakheart, right? I wish we could all 5 or 6 of us get jobs in a writing room together. That would make an amazing story, I guarantee you. If you're watching this and you hire writers, we got 6 of them you could hire right now.
I mean, that's basically what we are.
Exactly.
Is just on our feet writing room.
Writing room on our feet. Yep. I could only imagine what we would do if it was if we could work together in a room every day to try to get this done. Oh my good Lord. I get chills thinking about it.
If we got to edit what we say.
Yeah.
Wow.
Boy.
Wow.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. Join us on Wednesday for part 2 of A Town Called Ricochet. Don't want to miss it. I'll be there. Ron will be there.
Yep, I will definitely be there. David Genpro says, looking forward to Ron's Spaghetti Western Part 2, Wednesday. Call it the good, the bad, and the uggo. Don't think I didn't think about it. Don't think I didn't think about that. It was kind of all there. It's very obvious, clearly, which is one of the reasons why I didn't go that route. But if you are interested in what we've talked about and you just jumped in here like Gar Vidal, welcome. Thank you for being here. Sorry you're at the end here. You can see all of our videos if you are new on YouTube, youtube.com/The Dungeon Run. You can also check them here. We have some of our footage here in our last what do they call it in Twitch? My brain's not working. And the previous plays. Recent plays. And we have a Patreon. You can also get a lot of insight, extra information, even some characters, maybe some usable individuals and stat blocks, behind the scenes. And if you aren't familiar, at the end of all of our shows, or the Dungeon Run shows on Wednesday, we do an improvised readout of the names of those who are certain levels of our Patreon supporters. So check that out as well if you'd like us to do silly things with your name.
Thanks for following us. Yay.
Thank you for the follow. Gar Vidal, welcome.
Welcome. And the Dungeon Cooldown's on Patreon exclusively for the first little bit. So if you want to see this immediately, subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/The Dungeon Run. But yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
We've got a couple of shows now.
Ron, I hope you have an incredible Monday.
I also hope that you have an incredible Monday. I've got to go grocery shopping, so that's not going to be an incredible Monday, but at least I'll get the things that I need to survive. And
what's your favorite part of the grocery store?
My favorite part of the grocery store? The candy aisle, of course.
Well, then start there. Get your mood up. Hit the rest of it.
Should probably start before I go there. I always find that going to the grocery store hungry is never a good idea.
No, terrible. That's how I end up with a cupboard full of things that I'm like, why did I buy?
Why did I buy?
I don't even like this.
Yeah. Why do I have 3 boxes of Sweet Tarts candy canes?
I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful Monday. We love you.
We love you. We'll see you. I will see you next Monday if I don't see you on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. for part 2 of A Town Called Ricochet. You guys have a great evening. And as always, humankind,
be both.
Be both.